to ProlesPod.
Hello, and welcome to ProlesPod, your bi-weekly dose of history, politics, and culture without the liberalism. You can find and follow us on most social media platforms at ProlesPod and on TikTok at proles.pod. If you want to help us reach more people, leaving 5-star reviews on any of the various podcast catchers is the best way to do that. If you want to help us with our vision, you can subscribe to our Patreon over at patreon.com/ProlesPod. There's a lot of great stuff there, such as early access to main feed episodes with live listens, bonus episodes, theory beats, study guides, raffles, surprise drops, and more, with more on the way. As you've probably become aware, we will now be doing monthly Vanguard drawings for a Proles pack. This will be a mystery box of sorts, which will include a postcard from us, some random communist pins, a random coffee table book or history book, and a very limited run merch item that we have designed ourselves. We will announce the monthly winner in an episode, as well as share a cheeky picture of the box on our Patreon. These Proles packs will also be given out as rewards for future contests, so keep an eye out for those. This episode is brought to you by Comrade Bezos' Anti-Capitalist Media Factory. Last episode, we focused on more fantastical examples, sci-fi, all that kind of stuff. But today, we're going to be talking about the benefits and limitation of anti-capitalist media set in, quote-unquote, the real world, such as White Lotus or the Knives Out movies. But first, who do we have with us today?
Hi, I'm Ray.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm your host, Justin.
Tony's not with us because he's recording for his other podcast, Actually Existing Socialism.
It's true. So before we delve into the first example of anti-capitalist media, does anyone have any important thoughts that they want to share before we start framing this stuff?
So I feel like every day that I'm alive, capitalism finds a new way to break my heart, and I find a new way to grieve what capitalism has taken from me. And something I've been thinking about since we recorded that last episode.
10 minutes ago.
Right. It was like literally just now. But something I've been thinking about since just now is the way in which socialist culture has historically and could continue to do so provide us with a connection to things that are like truly wholesome. And the way that under capitalism, they become so meaningless, so futile, and actually even violent. So the example that I was thinking about, and I was actually like thinking of saying it during the episode, but there wasn't really a clear moment to like pop in with this, is if all of my needs were met, right? If I had stable housing, if my coworkers and I were working towards something that felt meaningful, if we felt a sense of like responsibility and camaraderie and ownership, but for whatever reason, I was singled out for a waffle party, like I would be so moved by that. Obviously, it would have to be like a gluten-free waffle party because I have celiac disease, but like I would be so incredibly moved by that. Like I would think that that was just like so sweet and thoughtful. Obviously, in a world where like, yeah, sure, we were provided for, but we weren't having like really extreme extravagance. You know what I mean? That would be so sweet to me. But when you guys talk about it in this example, this narrativized example under hyper exploitative capitalism, it just sounds so maudlin. It's like so grotesque. And like, that makes me feel so sad. And I also think about the way that after the illegal dissolution of the Soviet Union, a lot of Soviet people were exposed for the first time to like Western media and Western marketing tactics. And they were like, oh my God, it's like tits everywhere. Like what? Like what is happening? And they just think that it's like so gross and like so overwhelming and like very inappropriate, and they don't really understand what's going on. And I just like think about how much of our innocence is lost, as well as our sensitivity is just like deadened by the mode of production under which we live. And I would love someday in the future, the post-revolutionary future, to have a waffle party.
Fuck yeah.
I don't know any of these shows, so I don't even know how to announce them. But I guess the first show,
Announce them.
yeah, segue.
In the left corner is
White Lotus.
punching at 3 seasons.
Knives Out are they're movies, so they're
White Lotus is a show,
right? So
yeah.
A show that I've never watched that I think is about weed or something. That's a different one, isn't it?
That's Weeds.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. Then yeah, White Lotus. Talk to me about it.
Okay, so
Powerful.
if you Tony would never on his other podcast, Actually Existing Socialism. If you've ever spent time on really bizarre right-wing rabbit holes on the internet, sadly I have, you might come across this theory that has been debunked that basically says that like the birth order of your children, every subsequent child has a weaker and weaker jaw because essentially the woman's body, obviously it's not like a birthing person, this is obviously always a cis woman, the woman's body is like depleted after every childbirth, and like if you keep having more kids, you just have, I don't know, they all have like incel jaws basically. This is obviously not real and highlights a lot of contradictions within this very bizarre fascist pro-birth, pro-natalism worldview. Anyway, it's not real, but it is real if we're talking about the revolutionary potential and anti-imperial critique in The White Lotus. So every subsequent season, we come in
jaw.
with a weaker and weaker jaw. So, guys, this is just a podcast. You know what I'm saying? So I did see seasons 1 and 2, but some time ago, so I might be like a little bit cloudy on all of the details, but I did just watch the 3rd season this weekend.
No beef jerky for season 3.
Yeah.
For
hard to chew with that weak old jaw.
For this episode. And wow, I was gumming my way through it. So allow me to go back and say, basically, The White Lotus is a chain of super luxurious hotels and resorts, all-inclusive resorts that exist around the world for extremely wealthy people. Probably multi-deca millionaires, if not billionaires. These people arrive by boat. Like the premise of every season is basically the same. The people arrive by boat at the beginning. By the end, they all take their boat and leave. They interact with the staff, which we have this sort of like upper lower deck Downton Abbey kind of like class gesture, not just class gesture, but also cultural gesture, as these are all in foreign countries, right? Almost all of the clients are US Americans. Somebody always dies, at least one person always dies. And it's actually really strange, by the way, because you'd think that like this resort chain would have branding issues by a 3rd season. Like people just keep dying, but somehow they're PR people. I guess they're on it, right? Anyway, okay. So we have season 1, which is in Hawaii. And this hits really hard because it is constantly making a cultural commentary about the imperial nature and relationship that the so-called United States has to the island chain of Hawaii. And we can see there are bids for indigeneity of the local people trying to preserve their culture, but also like the pain and agony that we, the viewer, feel having to like watch them basically like dance for white people. But at the same time, like they are keeping these like artistic or musical or dance or culinary traditions alive for these people. By the time we get to the 2nd season, we are now in Sicily. A bunch more people die. It is Sicily, so they also have a colonial relationship to mainland Italy. So we're still kind of on this theme, although that's sort of like latent. It's never really addressed or expressed throughout the season. And then we just had this most recent one, which is in Thailand. And by this point, we're just like, rich people, they're just like us. We're just watching like the banal dramas of rich people. And like, while there are certain interactions with both local Thai people as well as like non-Thai employees of this hotel chain. We're really not getting any kind of class analysis with the exception of one minor subplot wherein one of the employees of the Hawaii location, she's a Black American woman, comes to Thailand and this is also really strange and probably would never happen. She gets to spend 3 months training with the Thai staff, but all the while she is living in one of the actual like guest bungalows rather than in employee housing. So she's really like living this like very luxurious life. She's treated like any other guest, with the exception that during the day, while the actual clients are having spa treatments, she's doing like trainings and stuff like that. But like her son is allowed to come stay with her for free. She also gets to experience the treatments as a part of her education. And throughout, she ends up, it's not really extorting the guy, but she sort of like ends up extorting one of the other clients for money to keep one of his secrets about how he probably killed his wife in season 2 and then gave himself a new identity. And she knows him because she was there when like she knew his ex-wife. And so he gives her $5 million. And at the end, she just starts basically kind of acting like an asshole. She had made agreements. So in season 2, the dead ex-wife wanted to help this employee, Belinda is her name. Tanya, the dead wife, wanted to help this employee, Belinda, to open her own spa and wellness center, but then just like totally blows her off because Tanya's totally absorbed. She is totally absorbed in her own drama that she like forgets about Belinda and goes off. And then they never get to settle this because she gets murdered in season 2. Belinda's not there because obviously this is happening in Italy. But by the time we get to season 3, that same husband is not staying at the White Lotus in Thailand, but he like lives up the road from it. So he comes there often to dine or whatever. And so she meets him and she's like, "Don't I know you?" And he's like, "No, you don't." And he's going by a new name. And then eventually he confronts her and is like, "I know that Tanya, my deceased wife, who I had nothing to do with her death, would want you to have this money, as well as like, I just want to live out my life in peace. Is that okay? I'll give you $100 grand." And her son, the MBA student, is like, "No, 5 mil." And he's like, "Whatever, fine." And so at the end of this, Belinda has been dating and like sleeping with a local Thai man who is one of the employees at the spa in Thailand. And they talk about opening their own spa together. And then at the end, she basically blows him off. And she's like, "Sorry, the situation has changed for me and I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm leaving. Goodbye." So she basically does the same thing that has been done to her. But aside from this, there's really no examination of there's really no examination of class and money.
Right.
And really the only thing that we see is like Belinda going on this character arc from being a moral, upstanding working person who couldn't possibly take money from this mean old rich man to like being bourgeois and blowing off this like local Thai guy that she was just banging.
Yeah.
Why the fuck are we talking about this show?
So, as we start off in season 1, where we get this like hard-hitting commentary on the violence of imperialism, there are seeds of something quite interesting that I would broadly identify as like class traitorism, where these wealthy people start to wake up to the violence not only of their own wealth, but even to a certain degree, although again, as we go through the seasons, it just gets stupider and stupider, how their wealth has been accumulated and the people that they have exploited in order to have this wealth. See, by the time we get to season 3, we have characters, we don't even know what their fucking jobs are. We don't even know how they made their money. And the one guy who did this illegal thing did like embezzlement, and not like a Bernie Madoff, like from poor and working class people. He's like a financier who like stole money from rich people, and he's probably going to go to jail for it. And also that's fine, because you know what I mean? It's like, he doesn't seem that exploitative. It just seems like rich people fucking over other rich people. But earlier on, there's a closer examination because obviously like inheritance plays a big role in this. You're at a resort. Many people are maybe going to take over the family business, or they're already working for dad's company or whatever. And as they start to wake up to the way that their businesses are going, and then brings us very clearly, parks us in front of one of the key limitations of every single season, where the class divide is obfuscated by a generational divide. because it is always one of the kids from these wealthy families who has a critique of the father's business or how the family has accrued their wealth or of colonialism, imperialism, capitalism in general. And even in season 1, they're saying capitalism, right? Like the violence of capitalism. Like this
Right.
is the kind of language that's being used. However, as the season goes on, which is most egregiously demonstrated in season 3, where the daughter has been studying Buddhism and she's a practicing Buddhist. And so they go to Thailand and her family all comes with her. And they think that it's because she wants to interview this monk for her thesis. But then she reveals, no, actually, I would like to stay at this place with this guru for 1 year. Actually, hey, for what it's worth, by the way, they do a really decent job of portraying Theravada Buddhism for what that's worth. It is like pretty respectful and like pretty authentic and it's pretty decent. And so her mother goes, yeah, sure, whatever. No, I mean, obviously her mother is like, wait, actually, I want to find the quote. Here it is. Her mother is talking to her father, the embezzler, and she says, her mother's very upset that she wants to go stay with this monk. By the way, they're not even upset that she's like bamboozled the entire family into this like luxury trip to Thailand. She's like just upset that she would want to spend 1 year at this monastery, right? And so she says to her husband, the embezzler, she needs to fear poverty, Tim, like everyone else we know. That's the only way she'll make good decisions. But so she tells her daughter to her face, like, look, I think this is the stupidest fucking thing ever, but I will support you if you stay there for 1 night. So the daughter's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm going to stay there for a year. Might as well stay for a night. Stays for 1 night. The next day that they're at breakfast, she breaks down sobbing and she's like, the food was bland and it was vegetarian and there was no air conditioning. And I don't want to feel like one of those people who's attached to these like creature comforts, but I am. And then, you know, later there's a montage and there's a scene with her mother where they're in the gift shop and her mom's like, if you like it, just buy it. Just do whatever you need. She gets like completely absorbed, right? And so that's the most egregious example. But every single season, there's a young person, again, they are making a class commentary, but this is obfuscated because there is a young person who is making a valid critique about class dominance and the bourgeoisie, even sometimes using that language. But by the end of it, something always happens. In the first season, the person who's making this critique ends up getting a local guy to do something illegal. It's actually just stupid. I don't even want to get into it, but gets illegal and then he gets fired. And then you see, she's trying to help, but actually she was the most harmful one. And then by the time you get to the third one, it's just like, you see, young people always think that that's what they want. And in the end, nobody can escape their class and nobody would want to, right? Like end of The Devil Wears Prada, like everyone wants this, right?
Yeah.
And why the fuck are we talking about this? I mean, I don't know. It wasn't my idea to spend 8.5 hours watching whatever the fuck I just watched the entire weekend. But I do think that it's part of, again, like when Jeremy gets into Knives Out or maybe The Menu or the White Lotus series. Again, especially season 1, which did have, I don't want to say a clearer message. I mean, I do want to say a clearer message because it's gotten way cloudier since then, but at least a message that like set us up like, oh, maybe subsequent seasons are going to lean into this. But at this point, like season 3 was just glamorizing wealth, which by the way, like I think wealth is like war, right? Like how they say, what's the expression? Like you can't really have an anti-war movie because no matter how brutal you try to portray it, there's something glamorizing about it. And like, certainly that's true of wealth. You don't leave this being like, wow, I don't want to be a rich person.
Right.
And you don't, and once you get out of season 3, you don't really think like rich people are bad people either necessarily. You're just sort of like, well, these are examples of bad rich people. But then there's also sort of like, to use the language of like Mal Sorensen, there's sort of the mute compulsion or the invisible hand where we see like, it's not Belinda's fault. She's lovely. She was just a poor and now she's a rich. And like, wouldn't you be an asshole if you had money? And it like inadvertently kind of makes it really sympathetic. Also, I just want to name one other thing for any other listeners watching this. There's a couple, they die at the end, both of them. But throughout, they're like an age gap love and she's much younger and he's much older, which of course we're talking about Thailand. They're both Westerners, but this is like a theme throughout this season, right? The like sort of sexpat, you know, with his like young Thai wife or whatever. But as we like get through this at the end, actually, the end of it is so crazy. I don't even want to spoil it for you because I think my retelling of it will be better than watching it. And I don't want to do that service.
Like Game of Thrones.
It is the truly where you're just like, what Bro,
It cannot
what
get
the
worse.
fuck?
Yeah.
There's just
A
like they're
retelling
just
even makes
throwing-
it sound too good. Yeah.
Literally, they're just because then I would have to make it cogent and concise,
Right.
and like that would make it better. Then they're just, I don't know what they did. Somebody just like poured all of the plot points into a pot and like shook it up and then like wrote them all, and then like ChatGPT like put them all in. Like I truly do not know what happened in that last episode. It was so, there were certain things that were so dragged out, and then other things were like, actually, he's your father. You just shot your father. And you're just like, what am I watching? And so anyway, they die. But like throughout this, he is really cruel to her. There's a class element that I want to speak to, but he's really cruel to her. He calls her an idiot. He says that she's stupid, and she's like really, really kind to him and very patient to him, and genuinely seems to love this guy, despite the fact that, or maybe because of the fact that he's like very depressed and sad and cranky and old and rude. And toward the end, as this drama is unfolding with this other guy and they end up killing each other, he sort of softens a little bit. And there's like this one moment where she says, I think we're really going to be together forever. And he is like, well, that's the plan. And she's like, really? And the music is like meant to make this sound so meaningful and beautiful and completely, one, obfuscate the fact that like he's just outright verbally abusive to her at every turn throughout in a very explicit way throughout. You know, obviously you all have met my husband. I have like a pretty hard line about how I would let my partner speak to me. But I mean, like by any definition, he's just cruel and mean to her all the fucking time. And it's like, look at that. He's opened up to her. But like they are long-term partners coming into this. And she's like really moved by the fact that this 50-year-old guy is like, yeah, that's the plan. I'm planning to be in a long-term relationship with you. Like it's so bizarre. And the reason that I wanted to bring this up, aside from the fact that like, yeah, I hate the like rehabilitation of very obviously violent domestic abuse portrayed in the media, and like, oh, what a nice guy because he said this nice thing one time. And like, it's okay that he's violent to her because like his dad's dead.
Sure.
But it's also makes it, I mean, she even says at one point, she's like, he's like my child. And her friend is like, that's fucked up. It completely obfuscates the imbalance of the power dynamic, that she is like a broke, I mean, wherever they're living, presumably, like she's a foreigner because she's British and he's American. She's broke. She's much younger. The only thing we know about her education or career history is that she used to be a yoga teacher, and that she's completely, I mean, she has like a strong personality and she's kind and she's cool and she's a go-getter. And you do get the impression that like she'd land on her feet. But like the reality is like she is dependent on this man who is abusing her. And then he says it's like one nice thing at the end, and like the music and the lighting. And it's so crazy that we're supposed to watch this and be like, look at these equals just because he's very emotionally immature, as though like your emotional maturity dictates the amount of power or leverage you have within a relationship or the amount of options or opportunities that you could have outside of a relationship.
But that's like a theme though in a lot of Western media, is like a rich guy who sweeps a poor girl off her feet and then gives her this great life. And then no matter how shitty he is to her, doesn't really matter because he's the one who's paying the bills. And then at the end, he learns a lesson in how to be soft, but it doesn't undo all the fucking
And
shit.
she is forever critiqued as like the gold digger character.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And like how she was just in it for the money. And the fact that like, I don't know, I mean, if we're commodifying all kinds of labor, then like being somebody's like whipping post may also deserve financial compensation.
Well, I mean, it's Beauty and the Beast, right?
Whoop!
Oof. You know, Mike White, the guy that did White Lotus, also School of Rock, also Orange County. So
Politically cogent.
Yeah. I think
But to answer the question of like, what do you think? I mean, I think two things. One of the things that makes sci-fi that just gives us more possibility is like, as we said before, you can entrench the politics and the theory and the messaging in a very different world that the viewer has a more difficult time orienting themselves toward. And therefore, actually, whether or not they understand it, opens them up to different kinds of like possibilities versus the here and now. Doing the work of presenting an alternative is already like so much more than most anyone could do. And it is like deliberately upheld to be this way. And when we were talking about, I don't know, the palate cleanser or like the relief valve or whatever, it's like looking at these grotesque, stupid rich people and their stupid, banal lives. does serve, I mean, it serves an anti-capitalist agenda in the sense in the sense of like a liberal eat the rich
Yeah.
messaging.
Mhm.
It's also watching the show as I was trying to like plow my way through it. You kind of can't because you have to really sit. They talk about a lot of like using two screens and a show being background noise a lot now. And like White Lotus is not that. And
Mm.
part of the reason that I think that they get away with so little plot is that it's like a wide, like a Cirque du Soleil level of visuals.
Mm.
And because there are like, it's all of the resort guests. And obviously these are elite resorts. They can only have so many guests at a time, but there's like several different plots that are going on that are like all intercut throughout these episodes. Again, on the backdrop of these gorgeous locations, right?
Mhm.
And these like beautiful high-end resorts. And so I do think part of the reason that they get away with it is like, I mean, when I was trying to look for some vestige of critique in like this far down the soft jaw season 3, it was very unenjoyable.
Mhm.
But just in terms of like sitting and watching something,
You're just eating like blended meals.
wait
Yeah.
a second. Spoiler alert. There is something called, like, I forget what the Thai name for it, but they call it like the suicide tree because the seeds can kill you. And that's one of the plot points, is that the embezzler goes to kill his whole family because he doesn't think that they'll be able to survive once he's not rich anymore and when he has to go to jail or whatever.
Good God.
And so he like grinds up the seeds and tries to feed it to all of them. But then he like wakes out of he's stolen all his wife's lorazepam and he like knocks it. He like won't let them drink anything. But then the other son does end up drinking it because it's like in the blender. And there's like this
Oh
whole
my
thing about the
God.
protein powder and the smoothie. The only thing that I can say, I laughed the fuck out loud. Arnold Schwarzenegger's son is in this. He plays a horrible, detestable character. And if you know any words in Thai, sawatika is how you would say hello if you were yourself a woman, or sawatikrap is how you would say it if you were a man. I don't speak Thai. That was my best approximation. Thai listeners and Thai speaking listeners, I apologize. But there's this point where he walks out and he's trying to talk to the ladies and he just goes, swastika. And so not only is he saying swastika, he is also like speaking as a woman. And it is like, I screamed laughing. I thought it was the funniest fucking thing in the show.
Bless.
So I loved that. More of that, please. More of having white people accidentally say swastika because so recently they have been saying it on purpose
Wow.
too much.
Are there consistent characters, or is it more like an anthology type shit?
It's like 80-20, the anthology, and then 20% characters that reoccur. Like we had Belinda, who was in season 1, the dead ex-wife Tanya McQuaid, who was in seasons 1 and 2. So there are some who can like move between seasons, but most of the characters do not.
How much do you think, because there is like a prevalence of anti-capitalism within American media, how much of it do you think is a way to create a fiction that, you know, if we're aware of these things, then we won't recreate them, and then we'll just have this equitable capitalist system? Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Like
Right, like
building awareness.
These are just like bad rich people.
Yeah, we
But
just
if
have
you
good.
could just
We
like
just gotta be good rich people.
if you could just be personally motivated to wake up
Mhm.
and make your bed and read Jordan B. Peterson and take personal responsibility and cry while taking your benzos, then you would be
You don't
a
have
good
to be
rich
this way. You
person.
can be better. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. You wouldn't do what Belinda did when you got $5 million. You would open a spa with your Thai lover.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could Bill Gates it.
Or, I mean, I think it does that, but I think it also
Bill Gates.
does, oh God. But I think that it also makes working class people feel like, well, it's good that I'm not rich because clearly having money is the root of all evil, right? Like money would turn me into an asshole,
Mhm.
just like it did
Mhm.
with our sweet
Mhm.
Belinda. And so actually, maybe my life is better because I don't have any money. Mo
Mhm.
money, mo problems.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. This idea of like all you need is love. Thank you, John Lennon.
Mhm.
Yeah. All around good guy, John Lennon.
Yeah, definitely did not co-opt an entire movement and then just push them into this obscure liberal left that would then turn into like proto-fascism in the 80s. All right.
Cool.
Yeah, but like, you know how like phrenology obviously wasn't real, but what about butt crackology? You know the picture where he has like a weirdly long butt crack? What if that is just like you're just a
Yeah.
liberal? You can't help it.
Mm.
It's on,
Mm.
but
Deep.
Big if
buttonology.
true.
Deep.
Crackology.
This is this is the
Cracknology.
analysis that people come to ProlesPod for.
I'm the theory guy. I'm so sorry. Delete everything I say.
Nope.
We're lost without Tony. We need him to keep this show on the rails.
Yeah, because he gets so annoyed with us when we start going off the rails that we're like, okay, we like consciously keep an eye on Tony, and when his face starts to get annoyed, we're like, oh, we got to get back on track. Yeah, but when he's not here, we're just like,
so. Let's move on to the movies that Jeremy won't shut the fuck up about, which I've never seen.
Mostly Glass Onion.
Knives Out, Glass Onion, Rian Johnson of Star Wars fame, in fame.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, nerds, but episode 8 is the best of the sequel trilogy. And you can suck it.
Shocker.
Suck it.
Yeah, so I don't even know what the fuck these movies are about. So talk about.
I mean, we start with like kind of a similar premise, right? It's like we've got a bunch of rich people coming to this place.
Right. So the first Knives Out is very grounded. It's although the some of the characters are like ridiculous in some ways, it's like a fairly realistic portrayal of human beings interacting with one another. So there's two different lessons though in these two different movies, and it is like Rian Johnson teaching working class people about rich people. When the movie opens, basically this housekeeper has discovered that the patriarch of this very wealthy family is dead and his throat has been slit, and like this sort of sets off the events. It's the inciting event of the movie where his entire family, all of his children, his son and daughters-in-law, his granddaughter, his grandson, they all come together basically because somebody is specifically convinced that it was a murder and not a suicide because he didn't leave a note. He didn't really give any indication. The night before, he'd had a big party where everybody was present, and he's got a live-in nurse.
Blanc, right? Like it's the detective who thinks
it's Benoit Blanc is the detective,
but that's foul play, right?
But that's a separate issue. He shows up to consult on the murder investigation.
Oh, you mean one of the original guests? Okay, I see.
Yes, one of the original guests, one of his family members believes that it's a murder.
Oh, right.
So anyway, it is a mystery comedy. They both are. This one is like Daniel Craig is having a lot of fun in his like late game character actor roles. He like Christ, what's the one where he does the heist at like the race stadium thing? What the fuck is that called? Anyway, like he plays like an absolutely ridiculous over the top character in that. Benoit Blanc in Knives Out, the first movie, is somewhat subdued, but he is like bonkers, like chewing the scenery by the time of Glass Onion. So each of these wealthy people, because our point of view character is the live-in nurse, who it's like a running joke that none of the family members know where she's actually from, but they're all sure that they know she's from somewhere. Like one of them is like says she's from like Belize, and another one says she's from Uruguay, and another one says she's from Brazil. None of them actually know her well enough, but they all pretend like she is part of the family, and they love her so much because she's done so much for the patriarch of the family. Each of them is politically different, right? Jamie Lee Curtis's character is like a pretty like run-of-the-mill liberal, but her husband is like a Trump supporting conservative. Then the second oldest son's son is like an outright fascist, like an alt-right internet troll. The granddaughter is a quasi-Marxist, like lib-left sort of person. And they all seem to be very different. But the lesson that Rian Johnson wants to teach you in this movie is that when their money and power is threatened, the rich close ranks. They come together against the working class in every single instance. It does not matter what they claim their political alignment is. It turns out that the patriarch of the family has cut every one of his children and grandchildren out of the will and is leaving his entire fortune, his house, the publishing rights to the books that he wrote to his live-in nurse. She gets everything. And when they find out about that, they go nuts trying to get her to quote unquote do the right thing and give them the money that is clearly owed to them. I don't want to give away the mystery because it's a fairly like satisfying thing to uncover, like who actually quote unquote killed him. Who done it is, it's somewhat beside the point, but the live-in nurse basically gets the inheritance to everything, and the whole family, like I said, closes ranks and they unify as a class to try to destroy her, to try to disinherit her, to try to get rid of her. Or, you know, some of them will start pleading with her, like, I tell you what, I'll help you, but you've got to give me some of the money. But they all, as a class, begin to stand together regardless of what their individual political leanings or ideology might be outside of their wealth. Their wealth is their ideology, right? And that's, I think, an important lesson for the working class to learn. And it's something that most Americans, most Westerners don't get. You know, they're like, oh, well, yeah, obviously, like people like Donald Trump are bad, but there are rich people who vote Democrat, right?
Bill Gates.
And obviously they care about, Bill Gates, you know, whatever. He gives away vaccines.
The Walton
and
family all say that they do one thing that makes the community better.
This one crazy
like
trick.
But the reality is that if their wealth was threatened, they would close ranks and they would stop arguing amongst themselves and they would close us out, kill us, take our stuff, whatever they need to do.
Which also, even before getting to that point, even if the ranks are never closed and their wealth is not threatened, the fact that like what they do with the money is not in any way democratic, and like what one person thinks is like good or beneficial is like somebody else's like exploitative bullshit, right?
Yeah, it's a very like well executed mystery story. It's satisfying for that reason as well.
Clue for a new generation.
But again, clue for a new generation.
Clue generation.
But it is also thematically satisfying as well.
Why do you, because you talked a couple times about, you know, Rian Johnson wants to teach us this. How do you know it's not just a happy accident?
Well, I think probably because of what follows in Glass Onion. So I guess we can just move on at this point to Glass Onion. This movie is insane. I watched this, you know, because it was like a Netflix exclusive that came out during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic shit. So like it came on Netflix and I was like, oh yeah, I liked Knives Out. I'll watch this. And I was like, well, it's not as good as Knives Out, but I was entertained. And then a couple of weeks later, Drew, who was on the Fall of the USSR episode, came down and visited. And I was like, oh, have you seen Glass Onion? And he was like, no, I haven't. I was like, oh, I'll put it on. It's pretty entertaining. There are jokes in this movie that you don't even know are jokes until you've already seen it once. There are jokes